Gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air on a Monday here in the Quad Cities. Monday, March 17th. St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone out there. Hopefully you behaved yourself this weekend as people celebrated with a bunch of green. And my mom is a full Irish lady, and I'm half Irish, and she loves St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day to my mom, and then, of course, happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone out there as well. Also, it's March Madness Monday. Wow. A lot to get to on today's show. Super excited about it. We have things packed, ready to rock and roll, plus some breaking news as we come on the show as well. So a lot to get to, but first and foremost, welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you guys watching on YouTube live there. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And if you have, tell a bunch of people about the show. I'm getting close to 800 subscribers on YouTube right now as well. If you're watching live on X, thank you guys so much for doing that. Please also interact with the show as well. Leave us what you think. Leave some comments as well. We'll get to all of that, both on YouTube and on X. Both of them rocking and rolling right now. And also, if you missed the show live and you want to listen to it instead of look at my ugly face, I don't argue with that at all. It is up on all of the podcasting platforms as well. So Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, you name it, iHeart, we're on it. Go jump in, check out today's show. Also the shows from last week as well. As I mentioned, some breaking news as we come on the air today. Of course, on Saturday, when we got off the air on Friday, everything went crazy, and it was expected, but at 1 o'clock, we got off around noon. At 1 o'clock, Fran McCaffery officially let go or fired at the University of Iowa as their head basketball coach. On Saturday, Owen Freeman went into the transfer portal, and then just moments ago, reports are now coming out that Brock Harding, the other Moline standout at the University of Iowa, has officially entered the transfer portal. So we wish Brock the best of luck. Of course, that doesn't mean that he's leaving the University of Iowa. He could come back, I assume, depending on who the coach may be. But Brock Harding is going to have his options there for him. He's a really good basketball player. Way too many haters at the University of Iowa. Of course, I'm biased. I love him. I love his family. But a really good basketball player. And as I just tweeted out, a winner as well. A warrior and a winner. So somebody's going to be getting a really good basketball player. We'll see what happens with both Brock Harding and Owen Freeman. It'll be an interesting couple of weeks and months when it comes to basketball with two Moline guys that won state championships with the Maroons a couple years ago. So we're going to get caught up on that. We'll talk with Tom Kakert coming up around 10:30. He'll be here to talk about both Brock and Owen being in the transfer portal and a lot of Iowa basketball stuff as well, which is weird because the Hawkeyes didn't make the NCAA tournament. March Madness unveiled last night, and that's kind of where we'll begin. The Fighting Illini are in the NCAA tournament for the 5th straight season. We're going to talk all about the Fighting Illini at 11 o'clock. My Illini expert, my good friend, my longtime good friend, Kedric Prince, will be joining the show coming up at around 11 o'clock. And we talk with him about everything you could possibly imagine. So we'll get to Ked in just a little bit, but we mentioned Illinois in the NCAA tournament. They'll be playing in Milwaukee, a very, very good draw for the Fighting Illini. They're in Milwaukee. They'll play Friday night at 8:45 against the winner of one of the play-in games, Xavier and Texas. And of course, if they win that game and if the brackets hold true, they would get a banged-up Kentucky team in round number 2 of the NCAA tournament, or 3. I don't know if it's 2 or 3 because of the playing games. Whatever. They'll get them to go to the Sweet 16 coming up. That would be on Sunday if they take care of business. So Kedric Prince coming up with the Fighting Illini at 11 o'clock. You do not want to miss that. We mentioned Iowa State in the NCAA tournament. Once again, they're in Milwaukee as well. They'll be playing on Friday at 2:30 against Lipscomb. If they win that one, they got a nice bracket. You look at them on paper and you like what Iowa State has, especially being in Milwaukee. thing I don't like is yesterday they announced that Keyshawn Gilbert will be out for the NCAA tournament. That's a big loss for them. We'll catch up on some Cyclone stuff coming up tomorrow. We're efforting to get my good friend Jake Brend on the show tomorrow as well. So the Cyclones in the NCAA tournament, they're heading up to Milwaukee as well. Women's side of things, Iowa, a 6 seed against Murray State. We'll talk Iowa women with Tom Kakert in a little bit. Also, a lot more with them tomorrow or Wednesday. We're efforting to line something up with Rob Brooks, who's been on the show many times, the voice of the Iowa women. So we'll have something with them coming up later in the week. Also, Shauna Green and the Fighting Illini in the NCAA tournament as an 8 seed. They'll take on Creighton coming up on Saturday at 6:15. And Bill Fenley and the Iowa State women are in the NCAA tournament. They're in a play-in game. They'll play on Wednesday at 6 o'clock against Princeton. One of the big things about the men's tournament, the Iowa Hawkeyes not in it, obviously, but West Virginia not making the NCAA tournament as well. A lot of people want to know, what does that have to do with the University of Iowa? Well, their head coach, Darren DeVries, is one of the top candidates, the hot rumored prospects or candidates to be going to the University of Iowa, or possibly Iowa interested in him. Everyone thought he'd have to wait out, going to the NCAA tournament and eventually losing before they could do that. It probably speeds up the process. So very interesting stuff. We'll talk to Tom Kakert about the Iowa coaching search in just a little bit. But we want to start today on Monday with a lot of stuff over the weekend was about the legacy of Fran McCaffery. And it was funny because, these last couple weeks and months, there was no shortage of Fran McCaffery critics. I thought it was really cool to see this weekend former players, former coaches, some Iowa fans as well jump to social media and kind of give Fran his flowers. 15 years at the University of Iowa. He leaves as the school's all-time winningest coach. So a lot of good things was done by Fran McCaffery. I said on Friday, I thought there were three lanes. You either love Fran McCaffery, wanted to move on. You didn't want that. You wanted him to be fired. But I thought there was a good middle lane that I probably found myself in where it might have been time for a change. And I think a change is probably a good thing at this point. But you have to give Fran his flowers for what he's done and be respectful about the way he came into a program that was, left for dead under Todd Licklider and breathed a lot of energy and excitement and brought in good players, did things the right way and all those kind of things as well. So Fran McCaffery let go on Friday at about 1 o'clock. And I want to start today with a chat I had over the weekend with Luka Garza's dad, Frank Garza. If anybody doesn't know Frank, an amazing human being, very charismatic, always a good conversation. But obviously, when you look at Iowa's all-time leading scorer, Luka Garza has a lot of love for Fran McCaffery. So I wanted to talk to Frank Garza about Fran McCaffery's legacy, about Luka and what he's doing with the Timberwolves, and then also about how Iowa moves on. He's a guy that had so much to do with the University of Iowa for so long. How does Iowa move on? What's best when it comes to breathing life into the program and getting Iowa basketball maybe back on track? So without further ado, we'll turn to our good friend, an interview I recorded on Sunday afternoon. Here is Frank Garza. And we are joined now by a very familiar face, especially when it comes to Iowa basketball. The dad of the leading scorer in Iowa basketball history and a good guy. Love for the University of Iowa. I know there's a love for Fran, sure, but Iowa is still there.
Yes.
I'm going to let you take your Timberwolves shirt. And we are joined now by a very familiar face, especially when it comes to Iowa basketball. The dad of the leading scorer in Iowa basketball history and a good guy in his own right, Frank Garza, joining me now. Frank, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you wearing the Minnesota Timberwolves attire. A busy time for Luka. Before we talk about Iowa basketball and a crazy weekend it's been for them, I want to talk to you about Luka because he's been playing well. And like we said before we started recording, he's a pro now. And that's something that I know he's always been a pro to us. But to see him mature and become a professional basketball player in the NBA, what's that been like for you as his dad?
Well, it's been great to watch. People ask me, what's the difference between college and NBA? And the answer is everything. And so seeing him go through that process, we did things that, over the summers that we didn't do in college. The extra emphasis on his defense playing at the pro level, being able to cover the pick and roll that he never had to see it in the Big Ten. He never had to deal with that, right? It just was is not an issue. And and then different releases, and going from 271 pounds down to 242, going from 14% body fat down to under 6. Having to change everything about his diet, his routine, his recovery, all of that. So it's been great to see him continue to be thirsty, continue to be hungry, and continuing to want to be the best version of himself that he's capable of becoming. Just a point of fact here, Matt. They keep track of shots, during practice and after practice, etc. So the guy that's next to Luka, so Luka's number 1, and Luka was out for 2 weeks with a sprained ankle too. So the guy that's closest to him is 21,000 shots away.
Wow.
Just to put it in perspective of the commitment. Oh, sorry about that.
You're fine.
My alarm was like, oh, that was for Matt. The commitment to getting better and continuing to do what it takes to get better.
You look at where Luka's at in Minnesota, in a fan base in a state in the Midwest that just loves that kind of hard work. And you can see the relationship that's been built between the fans and the Timberwolves fans, similar to the one to the state, to the south, in Iowa. Kind of talk about that, because Midwesterners, I think everybody appreciates hard work, so I don't want to stereotype it too much, but his work ethic fits with what goes on in Minnesota, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, definitely. The thing about the Midwest is self-made people, and they get that way from doing what it takes, discipline, which is a tough one. Saying no to things because while you have a purpose, once you have a purpose, then it's easy to make a decision. But if you don't have a purpose, and you can't survive in the Midwest without a purpose. So I think people see that. They see how he is on the bench. They see his sunshine personality and his never give up attitude. And it's like this, Matt. What you see in another, you can't unless you have it in yourself. And so the Midwest is full of those kind of values that we raise Luka on and they see that and appreciate that.
Frank Garza joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. And Frank, a different, interesting week for the University of Iowa when it came to basketball. What goes through your mind? And you mentioned where Luka's at, and a guy who had a big hand in that is Fran McCaffery. What goes through your mind when you hear the news on Friday that Fran McCaffery is no longer the head coach at the University of Iowa?
Yeah, well, it was a heartbreak, definitely, and there's so many factors today in the game. It's lost its. The game is now a professional business. It's not. It's full out, professional business, which means it's profit and loss. But what hits me is I think what'll be lost, and what I mean by that, Matt, is fatherhood. This. Fatherhood is full of firsts, right? The first scraped knee, the first bike ride, the first jump in the water, the first heartbreak. And as a parent, when your boy leaves the home and goes to college, and particularly, and you're going to play for a coach, you're transferring that responsibility to that man. And the question is, or the issue is, and this is not just for fathers, but also mothers and caregivers, is when you transfer that huge responsibility, you've got to look at that man and be convinced, marrow deep, that man sees your boy from the inside out and doesn't look at your boy as saying, what can he do for me? And it's an ocean of difference. And Fran's one of those guys that saw Luka from the inside out. You've seen on the Twitterverse and now X, all that stuff, all players just coming out just saying what he did. And those aren't published. Those victories aren't out there. Those taking men into manhood. And the trust that we have in a man like Fran to do that. And I fear when money takes over that you lose that, because then it becomes, hey, what can this athlete do for me? What can they do for, and you lose that quality that, as a parent, you want your kid to learn, because it's not just about the sport. It's life in the miniature. You win, you lose. You have referees to enforce it. It's like a mini life every game, and so many lessons to be taught that they'll carry on into their own adulthood and fatherhood themselves. And so I fear that that's going to be lost, and that's a heartbreak for me and for all those young men are going to miss out on that.
Frank, when you look back at it, Fran was the first D1 coach that believed in your son, that believed in him. What did that mean?
Years ahead.
Yeah, and think about that, because yes, the becoming a caregiver, and obviously you're giving your son off to a guy that's going to take care of him for 4 years. But before that, he was the first guy that said, this guy belongs at the Division I level, more or less a National Player of the Year and playing in the NBA. What did it mean from the basketball sense from Fran McCaffery to see Luka Garza and go, I want that guy at my university?
Yeah, great question, Matt. Great question. I mean, think about it. That was like years in advance, of anybody else coming to the table. And we grew up in the DMV, and Fran saw what he could become. And Maryland and Georgetown, they let the National Player of the Year leave, right? They let him leave because they didn't see what was inside that boy, which was he's just simply going to refuse to lose. He's going to leave it on the court. And you're not going to tell him to have to get in the gym. You have to tell him to leave the gym while still maintaining grades and graduate, right? And so he saw that, and that's his particular talent that I think, very few coaches have anymore. He's somewhat of a dinosaur. I haven't had the blessing of having coaches that saw that in me, thank God. Otherwise, I'd be certainly, So anyway, that just speaks to his talent, and Luka wasn't the only one. He believed in many boys and took them into manhood, and again, you're going to hand off this boy to this man, and he's going to spend more time with your son than you are over those next 4 years. So it meant a lot that he could see, and that's what I was waiting for in a recruiting coach, is someone could see what Luka's insides look like.
Absolutely. Frank Garza joining us right now on OTA on a Monday here in the Quad Cities. Frank, I know you guys keep up with what's going on at the University of Iowa this year.
Sure.
And I know some of the players. You've worked with Owen Freeman. He was part of your camp here in the Quad Cities. You get back to the state, which I love. Crisscross it all summer doing that camp. When you look at the University of Iowa, and you've had amazing times at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Yes, you played a whole season where it was empty, but this year there wasn't the passionate fan base that's normally there.
Sure.
While watching from the side or from the north and looking in, what were your thoughts on Iowa basketball? And was it weird to see a Carver Hawkeye Arena and an usually loyal fan base not there night in and night out, like maybe it was for your son?
Yeah, no, that's a reality. I mean, it's, you think about it, so many things happened in this last season with Owen's injury, this and that. There's 6 games that were within, I think, 6-7 points that if he had won, he would have been 20 plus win season, things like that. But I also want to say, let's give credit to what's out there. I mean, it's time, to celebrate women's basketball, right? I mean, a lot of those fans went over the women's basketball, and that's a good thing. I mean, I think Fran would be happy about that. And we got to realize that in Iowa and everywhere else, folks can't afford tickets to everything, right? And it was time to celebrate, and it's time to celebrate the women. When we were first at Iowa, they had to put the curtains down. There were barely 2,000 people in the arena, right? And, you're not going to fire the coach because of that, right? But so it's like there's so many combination of things. The fans are still there, and hey, you're going to go to, I'm sitting there going, hey, Fran, Owen is out. They're going to have a tough season. Hey, I'm going to go see the women. Great. That's a wonderful thing. That's not a bad thing. That's an Iowa thing. That's a beautiful thing. But then I just felt that just saying, oh, well, then, therefore, boom, fans don't like anymore. I don't think that's the case. I think the thing was, hey, I got so much money. I don't have all the money, but I've only got so much money. Where can I spend it? Well, it's time for the women to celebrate the women. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think it would come back around. But again, when so much weight is put onto one season, I just think it's, it's a little limited, but it's not my call, and it's a tough call for an AD to make when sometimes personalities win over principles. And my book is principles over personalities, but it's hard when you're in a business now where it may not be the tide and you have to respond to it. And I get all that. And I'm not here to say what's right or wrong. I'm just saying, I know as a parent, what Fran did for my son and my family. And I'm a Hawkeye. I'm going to continue to watch Hawkeye basketball. I was a fan of Iowa when my alma mater beat them, University of Idaho, in overtime to make it to the Sweet 16. So listen, I've been aware of Hawkeyes for a long time, and I'll continue to support Hawkeye. Iowa's our field of dreams, Matt. We're going to continue to do that. And I just think with a man that did so much that, people just don't forget the kind of quality man and family that even off the court too. When you look at what Fran did with the cancer, and all that work he did there, I just think that, but arrows have to change, right? Things need to move on. And so I just know what it means to have a man like that, hand off your boy to and what that means off the court.
Frank, do you have a Fran story? So, like, if I'm talking about coaches or certain people, there's always, there's a legendary coach here in the Quad Cities, Duncan Reed, and then everybody brought his name up. I'm like, this is my favorite Duncan story. And I think it's the same with Fran. I have a Fran story where one serious, and there's some funny ones too, but I lost my father 12, 13 years ago, and we had an interview a few weeks afterwards. And he asked me, we had a little bit out of time kind of to kill after the interview. And he's like, how's things? And I kind of told him what happened. He sat there for a half hour and talked to me about losing your father and what's it like and all that kind of stuff. So do you have what's your Fran story? It could be funny. It could be whatever. Do you have a Fran story when people talk to you about Fran McCaffery?
Oh yeah, there's so many. You want it chronological or alphabetical?
Just your best. Just your best.
Oh, God, that's a lot of pressure. Well, the one that always be in my heart when I think of Fran was, we come on. I met with him in his office there when we, on our first trip out there, because of the recruiting rules, he couldn't pay for it, right? It wasn't a thing. So, I'm investing. We come here. It's a phenomenal weekend with the outdoor wrestling, women's basketball first, then the outdoor wrestling that weekend with Illinois. I think it was Illinois. We do all that. Then with the men's basketball, this and that, chit chat. Then I sit down, mano to mano with Fran, and in his office, and we talk out. I talk about what's important. It's hardly anything about basketball, by the way. Hardly anything about basketball. It's about character stuff and this and that, and so we're talking shop, and so we finished talking, and I walked down that hallway there. And geez, I had forgotten my wallet. I'd set it there on the table. So I run, I get back in there and I go in there and Fran's dancing. Because, I told him, hey, you do this, he's coming. But just give Luka the time to get these other offers so he feels what it's like to be wanted. And of course, all the offers poured in his senior year when he did all that stuff. But anyway, I come down there and Fran's like, that's it. He's so happy. And I said, my God, I just, forever that image of him because he knew he got Luka because Dad and him were on it. And that wasn't an easy talk because I said, hey, Fran, you get him during the season. I get him in the off season where I'm going to take and teach him what I know and what I learned from watching because I'm a student of the game. I had great coaches. I know stuff that others don't just because the people that taught it to me are dead now in heaven looking down at us. And so I said, I need him in the summer. You can have him during this. He's yours. I won't tell you how to coach. I've never done that with coaches. He's yours during the season, but in the off season, he's mine to go get better. We talked, hey, and how many coaches have the humility, Matt, to say, hey, okay, to a parent, but I knew what I was talking about. And of course, the results are fairly evident or self-evident about the ability for me to take Luka away. And I took him over to Kona, Hawaii, where the only way he could get back is if he swam. And right. And we put in some work that is legendary over there in the state of Hawaii. I mean, legendary. And he came back every year a better player, just like I have the same kind of scenario here. Minnesota, I get them in the summer, and of course they have their own staff and wonderful and all this and that. But I'm a student of the game, and I know his game probably better than anyone else, short of himself.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic story. You mentioned, Frank, you're a fan of Iowa basketball. You're still, I mean, Luka's still, nothing changed. Luka's still the all-time leading scorer at the University of Iowa. His name's still in the rafters. I know there's still the love for the University of Iowa. I know there's a love for Fran,
Sure.
but Iowa is still there.
Yes.
I'm going to let you
Yes.
take your Timberwolves shirt off, and like, you're the AD. You're going to put your AD uniform on. You get to be the Beth
Okay.
Getz and pick not pick. I don't want any names unless you want to give me one.
Sure.
But when you're looking for another basketball coach at the University of Iowa, what are you looking for? What needs to happen? Knowing the community, the fan base, what you went through for so many years at Iowa, what does that next coach have to be like in order to succeed at the University of Iowa?
Yeah, wow, you've just powerful questions, Matt. This is who you are as a reporter. That's why you're so successful. I would say it's very insightful. And again, you know what Beth is up against. I admire her strength, and this is a tough call for her. That's part of why she's where she is. And the future is what we make it. So I would say, in terms of the coach, first off is to honor the traditions. The Chris Street story, the Lute Olson, and all that wonderful history and traditions. And even before that, I mean, just all of that, all the way through Dr. Tom, everything that was done, Fran McCaffery, and the things that it, so someone who's going to honor that, because I think it's important to all of us Hawkeye fans and all sports there, that tradition is honored, that at the same time that to the extent possible, we need the business recruiter person, but also one that's going to honor principles before personalities, and that's going to be tough in this era with portal and NIL and this and that. And it's something where it may be a different coach than what I've been reading about out there. Someone who's age has nothing to do with it, but someone is, more generationally attached to what's going on out there in the NIL. Because one thing that I think the other thing made Fran so successful was he was a player's coach, and so some person like that's there. And again, coaching the Big Sky is very difficult. I mean, in the Big Ten, I say Big Sky because that was Idaho, the Big Sky Conference, but the Big Ten. It's interesting. Big Sky, Big Ten, Idaho have the same colors as University of Iowa, so I always miss Idaho. I always mix them up. But it's going to be a coach that I think is younger, that is into all this NIL stuff, knows how to put it together, is going to be able to get players that, because of the character of the coach, they're looking to stay there 3-4 years. They're not looking to hop around and just portal hunt and get money. Although that's important for the athlete too, that can raise money, can help educate the boosters that, hey, first you have to write a check. You got to write checks. And I think the issue, Beth, everything going on is you now got to write some checks. And because money's now, influencing what's happening. And so it's going to have to be someone with a business background that knows that and can put that together and is super creative and knows how to use social media. I mean, just all the new things that a new coach is taxed with, Matt, that in the old days wasn't even on the radar of some of these coaches. And I see all the candidates being talked about. To me, none of them are that person, and nothing wrong. And not person, coach. It's going to have to be something different if they want to get a different result, because the Big Ten requires it. It's a different game now.
Absolutely. A few more for Frank Garza before I let him go. I appreciate your time as always, Frank. We talked about Carver Hawkeye. And I've been covering it for 25 years, and I was just joking the other day with our friend Tom Kakert that it's the same environment, the same game day where they're going to putt the golf ball, they're going to pump the burrito, they're going to IOWA. Right. And while there's traditions you want to keep, I do think they need to maybe put a shot of energy into the game day experience. If you would change things, or I guess my question is, how would you energize Carver Hawkeye Arena? How would you re-engage the fan base to come on back and check out what we got? Because I thought it was disappointing because the product didn't win a lot as much as they wanted to this year, but it was still a fun product to watch. How would you energize Carver Hawkeye Arena or this fan base to come back a little bit and check out men's basketball again?
Wow, it's a toughie. Well, that's a toughie. That's a toughie. Isn't that the question for the AD?
The $1 million question.
Well, oh my gosh, or multi, right? $1 million ain't going to cut it, right? We're talking they at least need $10 million to even compete, in the Big Ten with NIL going on. It's a reality. Well, I would say, I think it starts with the students. You got to make it fun for the students to get there. You got to bring them closer into the game. Fun, student nights and, free, come bring them in there, and by virtue of that brings in other folks too. It's like, it's like a law of attraction. And I think for the fans, I mean, I think everybody there wants to have a successful in going forward, even more so than what Fran was able to do. And so I think there's some loyalty there to that. They're gonna have to win and make it fun to watch. Fran was an offensive wizard, and it was a fun game to watch, and entertain. And it's a family package, man. You go there, it's just like wonderful. It's a good question. I don't have 100% answer for it, but I think it starts with the students. Get them more involved, make it fun for them to come, make it student night, make it this and that, and that'll do a lot to bring a lot in. And the players, I know, will love it to know that their students are there, because you go to every other arena, that's happening. Students are right there and rocking it, and they bring their parents, right? Because that's the only way they can see the kids is they come to the game, come for that weekend, right? Because face it, man, once the kids leave for college, they're forevermore their guests. Right? So the parents are going to go to where the kids are doing. If they're going to say, I'm going to the game. Why? Because we go to the game, we get this. It's a fun night. We do this and da-da-da. There's extra special goodies for it. I think that's the fire we need to stoke and really engage. And that will bring the parents in for those weekends and get the businesses involved. So there's just this and that going on. And then I think the folks will come back. But again, this is a time of women's basketball and the celebration of that. It may be years till Carver's full again. And I think people have to have the expectation. It's the women's time, and it should be. I mean, when I was first there, it was 1,200, 2,000. You had to draw a curtain down so it didn't look so empty. Well, this is part of the ebb and flow of what's going on. And I, again, say I'm an economist. Fran's an economist. My son's an economist. I think Connor also got his econ degree. There's only so much money, and they can't expect them to pay for the women's and then pay for the men's and then pay for this and then pay for that. There's just not enough money around, so they're going to have to make it affordable, more affordable for that to come back in and build back up. And that means businesses and folks there, those personalities out there got to write checks. And checks they're not going to want it. But if they want to have this, they need to open up their checkbook. And that's what I'm talking about. A coach is going to understand that. Be able to help educate, because you have to write a check first. And that is now where the program's facing. They're going to have to write some major checks, period. They were going to have to write them anyway, but now they're going to have to write them even sooner. And I'm not talking about a new arena. I haven't even mentioned that. But I'm saying this is the reality that we're in. And I'm very familiar with that, just being in the NBA and just being with other college HDs and just hearing what kind of, this is the reality we're in. We need to have $10 million a year or we're not going to compete.
Absolutely. One more for you, Frank. As this started to go through and the season started to come to an end and maybe people started thinking Fran might be on the hot seat, if you will, the one thing that he made crystal clear, and I think the people around him that I that I would talk to is that Fran still wants to coach. He's still a coach. He still wants to do it. Your thoughts on that? Because Fran McCaffery's not going to go golf for the rest of his life. I don't think that's Fran. What do you expect from Fran next? Because that he's still got some coaching left to do, doesn't he?
Oh, he's got game. He's got game. White Magic is a like his mistress. It's like my coach's mistress was basketball, and he loves it. He has that special talent, and I hope I expect him to continue in the game because that quality of seeing what others can't see. See, the magic is seeing the unseen, hearing the unheard, going where the eye can't see. And Fran has that in an enormous way, and that's going to benefit any program because he's going to do some remarkable things like he did at Iowa. And I just hope he keeps in it because why? The game, it's life in the miniature, and we need coaches that are also fathers, and that's what they end up being. And that's what you've been seeing and reading on the Twitterverse is that Fran was a father, and I know he's a father to Luka. It takes a man to grow a village, and no more important time than when they go to college and become men, that you have a father you can go to besides your biological father. I totally share it all because that's what's the most benefit to the development of a young person.
Love it. Frank, I appreciate this. Enjoy that son of yours. Enjoy the basketball you get to watch. I'll talk to you again real soon. We'll catch up with Luke after the season. We'll promote the heck out of that camp. You guys run an absolutely amazing camp. It's been all around the state, and we'll get that promoted as well. Always great to catch up with you, and we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks, Frank. I appreciate you.
Great. Hey, thank you, Matt. Thank you.
All right. That is Frank Garza, Luka Garza's dad. Great perspective right there on the legacy, I think, that Fran McCaffery leaves at the University of Iowa, and some really good insight on who's next and what that should look like as Iowa basketball moves forward. We're just getting warmed up here on a Monday on Off the Air in the Quad Cities. We got a lot more to get to right after this. When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Monday right here in the Quad Cities. A busy March Madness Monday, also St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone out there. Before we get rolling on what was next in the show, and we're going to talk to Tom Kakert here in just a matter of moments about the latest with the Iowa basketball program, their head coaching search, and Brock Harding just recently, moments ago, getting on social media and letting everyone know that he is in the transfer portal right now. But before we do that, we're going to have our own off-the-air March Madness pool. I'll be tweeting out and putting the link out on all these social media formats coming up in just a little bit. Free to get in. Hop on in, fill out your brackets, and if you win, to the winner, thanks to our amazing sponsors, the winner gets a large chips and salsa from Snoop and a dozen enchiladas. They also get a large specialty or 3-topping pizza from Godfather's and a $20 gift card to Hungry Hobo, our newest sponsor right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. So it's worth the price and admission just to get in there and get that kind of stuff. Remember, you have to be subscribing in order to win. That's the hope. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel that's completely free. So we will be getting that link out to everyone on social media right after the show. Hop on, fill out your bracket, nothing to lose, a whole bunch of fantastic food to gain if you win. So hoping to take our next guest and talk a little Iowa basketball with Tom Kakert. Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy cannot hear me. I can kind of hear you. We're going to go back to a one shot real fast and try to figure this out. I'm going to put Tom should be able to hear me. So one more time, we're going to try it, Tommy, and if not, we're going to head to another segment real fast. Tommy cannot hear me, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and chat with Kedric Prince here in just a second. We'll try to figure out why Tom Kakert can't hear us on the other end, because we do this often. So we're going to take a quick commercial, and we'll be right back right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We will be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We have Tom Kakert now, which is a good thing. But Tom, go back to the way you had your phone, because there we go. Now you look good.
That's the way I had it. And you told me to turn it sideways.
I know it didn't look good. You don't have the flip thing. You're old like me. Hi, Tommy. How are you, bud?
Hi.
Just
better now that I can hear from you.
Just a normal Monday, nothing big going on. I don't know where to start. I think I'm going to start with the news of, so Tom and I help out Tom's podcast, the Hawkeye Report podcast. And for years we renamed it the Brock Harding podcast. Brock is a friend of ours. He's a friend of ours. Yeah. The families are friends with ours. Love Brock. The news comes this morning. Brock Harding is officially in the transfer portal. Your thoughts on Brock joining Owen Freeman and now in the transfer portal?
Oh, we've lost both the Moline guys now off of, the Quad Cities takes a hit at the Iowa basketball program. But, I thought Brock might wait, and he still could come back. We don't know. I think he's got options. And I think we knew he would have options. But I thought he would wait to see if, like Darren DeVries gets a job, and we'll probably talk about him in a minute. I'm not surprised. The fan base hadn't been great to Brock at times. He let some of that out during the season, too, towards the end of the year, just kind of letting people know what he thought. And so it's just he might just want a fresh start after Coach McCaffery got let go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we talked with Scott Harding, his dad, on the show on Friday. So I think Brock will have plenty of options. And I do think, I know nothing. I haven't talked to anybody. I don't know anything, but I do think Iowa might still remain an option. Didn't sound like it in the post he just put up, but didn't say keeping their options open, all that kind of stuff. But we'll wait to see what happens with the coaching search as well. Tom, boy, this coaching search gets interesting as the hours and the minutes go by. And we haven't done one of these. You haven't done one of these since Fran McCaffery was hired 15 years ago. And we kind of talked about that. So it's been a minute. Obviously, I think the big domino yesterday was the fact that West Virginia did not make the NCAA tournament. When you hear that, what goes through your mind, and what are kind of the things you've heard or found out since the fact that West Virginia didn't make the NCAA tournament, and Darren DeVries obviously being one of the talked about candidates for the University of Iowa?
Yeah, and we've got a couple of pretty good sources at West Virginia. So, they're devastated that they didn't get in. I mean, the bracket matrix thing that I always go to and cite during some of my, whenever I talk about an NCAA tournament possibility, 111 brackets that are put together by experts and super fans of the NCAA tournament and things like that, guys who know what they're doing. 111 brackets, 111 had West Virginia in the tournament.
It's crazy.
And they didn't get in. So what I was told this morning was that the West Virginia team, they had a spot in the crown, which Iowa also had a spot in the crown, but they have decided not to play. And was told that the West Virginia players voted this morning not to participate in the crown. They're just done. They're like, you know what? We don't want to wait 2 weeks and go play in Vegas. And there's like some sort of reward at the end if you make it to the championship or the Final Four in the crown, but nobody kind of knows what that reward is in terms of financial stuff. So it's just like, why do it? And so they're just like, we're done. So that has freed up Mr. DeVries. And then I was told that he was now not in the office today. So Beth Getz, maybe not in the office today. Things that make you go, Yeah, wasn't that a song?
Yes. I don't think either of us are very smart, but I think we can connect dots. And obviously that would make, and it's no surprise that he is one of those talked about guys when it comes to the University of Iowa. I don't think Iowa was expecting to be able to do this quickly. With that being said, there's other people, other teams interested in both Ben McCollum and in Darren DeVries. How quickly, how important is it for Iowa to move quickly if they're going to make a move? Because there are other factors surrounding these coaches search, this coaching search.
Well, I think there is a strong mutual interest between Iowa and Darren DeVries. I mean, this is, I wouldn't say dream job, but this is a job that he would be very, I mean, he grew up a Hawkeye fan, the family, huge Hawkeye fans, Darren DeVries, former Lion, was a great Hawkeye player, and his brother, and he grew up going to those games. So it just makes some sense that there would be really big time interest between Iowa and Darren DeVries. And he's been successful everywhere he's gone. He's been successful at Drake. Had a really good year, I thought, at West Virginia, especially considering that his son Tucker didn't play after December 6th, something like that, December 8th, didn't play. And he's a potential All-American player and their best player, and they still won 19 games, had 6 Q1 wins. Really successful year. Now, I've been told that Indiana wanted to talk to him too. He's one of the 3 finalists, I think, for the Indiana job, along with Ben McCollum. They're both kind of competing for jobs together. And Brad Burnell from Clemson is also in that mix. So we'll see. But I definitely think, knowing the DeVries family, there's just been so much chatter that he kind of wants this job. And maybe Iowa wants him.
I think that's going to be the interesting thing, is if they can get this thing done quickly and all those kind of things. Let's talk quickly about McCollum, because Ben McCollum is somebody that now turns his attention to the NCAA tournament, and Drake playing Missouri in round 1 of the NCAA tournament. But it's been a weird weekend, Tom, and everyone knows we're good friends. We speak. I probably speak to you on the phone more than I speak to my wife, which is probably a bad thing. But it is a roller coaster ride, isn't it? Where you hear one thing, then you hear something else, and it's always interesting in coaching searches. And I think that's the one thing that I'd caution fans about. And when I would talk to people this weekend or friends and say, "What do you know?" I always say, "This is what I know." But things can always change quickly. Kind of talk about that, because it can be a roller coaster ride.
And people, I always caution people. I'm like, hey, what might be true today might be false tomorrow. It's like the stuff about whether Iowa would have the resources financially. I mean, the Pete Thamel story that came out, and then Beth quickly shot that down. And I think that was some, I wouldn't say face saving, but just some, it didn't appear to be a great look. And so there's something that had to be done. And so they came up with that money that it's like I said, you remember when we were talking about this job and everything Friday night on our pod, that I said, you do what you have to do to get the guy you want. You just do. That's what, if you're sold on Darren DeVries and you think he's the guy that can lead your program for the next 15 years, guess what? You go out and you shake the trees and you make it happen. And that's what you have to do. If you think he's the guy, you can't just hire on the cheap in order to make a budget if you don't feel like that guy is the guy. I would think, I was thinking about Ben McCollum last night, and I wonder if from afar, and I don't know that Beth Getz has ever met with Ben McCollum. I don't know that I don't think she has, but I wonder if just from afar, you remember she was the associate athletic director at Butler when Brad Stevens was there. And I just wonder if she maybe has like a Brad Stevens feel for him, kind of this guy that's kind of won't say nerdy, but just kind of, every man kind of looking like more like a salesman than a basketball coach kind of thing. And he just kind of comes in and just really good tactician, mind for the game, like Brad Stevens had. I wonder if there was some of that she sees in him.
Tom, when it comes to a final decision, can it happen quick? Like if things are going well, I'm not saying they are, but if things are moving quick, can you have like a Wednesday announcement, a Tuesday? I mean, could something happen this week if this matches up and things go well? Potentially.
I mean, if they, meet today and they're sort of like, yeah, let's do this. I don't think you can leave Darren twisting in the wind for a week. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You just can't. If you're going to go meet with them, then your intention is we either getting married or we're not getting married. It's one of those two, and you can't. I don't think you can leave them twist for a week and say, well, I really want to go to wait and meet the Drake coach, see if that's going to work. You just can't. You can't do that right now. I mean, if you had it like hey, we're meeting with the Drake coach tomorrow, that stuff gets you in trouble. Remember when Iowa ended up hiring Kirk Ferentz? It was, Bob Stoops was they get done with the interview and they're like, hey, we got to go do some more interviews. We'll get back to you. And Bob's like, I got Oklahoma. We're done.
Yeah.
See you guys. It's just, you got to strike while you can strike.
It will be interesting to see how quickly Iowa does strike and what happens. It really accelerates, I think, the process of the Iowa coaches search. I wanted to ask you. Go ahead.
Because I think we both thought West Virginia being in the tournament, it's just going to be kind of a holding pattern for about a week, and them not getting in the tournament, and then the players not voting to playing the crown changed everything in terms of the timeline.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report joining us right now. We did get news on Saturday. No surprise at all. Owen Freeman in the transfer portal. And we talked about Brock at the beginning of this, but thoughts on Owen. And Owen's going to make a little bit of money, a good amount of money. There's no shortage of suitors. Say that 5 times fast. With Owen Freeman. Just your thoughts on our tribal chief hitting the transfer portal and somebody's going to get a good player.
Yeah, get a good player, a guy who's going to get better, a guy who can really make a team better next year right out of the gate. And, it's the reality of college athletics right now that guys are going to go in the portal and they're going to look to better themselves financially. So I don't blame them. We would all do the same thing. We all do the same thing in our life professionally. If we get an opportunity where we can go to another place of employment and make more money than we were before, that's what we always do. So why is this any different? I don't begrudge any of these players for doing that and trying to better themselves and their family situation and everything around them.
I think I get frustrated because I saw a lot of stuff on social media this week of, Owen was out the door already or Owen was going to leave. No one knows that. I don't know if Owen knows that. Here's what I do know: the guy that recruited him. He certainly
didn't talk that way to anybody, and including me privately. I mean, he just never did.
Yeah,
he was always talking about the future and things like that.
Well, that's I think the thing is, you look at people at the University of Iowa right now. They left and their coach is gone. And that's a huge factor of why you go to a school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do get frustrated with the people who are like, he was 1 foot out the door. I had somebody tell me that he was going to leave before the season even started. And I said, if that was the case, he would have left. He could have left last year. So I think that's my little rant for today is no one knows what was going to happen. Here's what did happen. The guy that believed in Owen before anybody else, and the guy that he enjoyed playing for, got fired on Friday. And that opens the door for any player to leave. Owen went in on Saturday. Brock went in this morning. And they have the right to do that. That makes sense for them to find the best situation. So I think the frustration that I get is that this cart ahead of horse, that Owen was 1 foot out the door kind of stuff. I don't find that to be true, Tommy.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't. Neither of those guys are built that way. They're just not. We both know them pretty well, and they're not 1 foot out the door guys. They're both feet in wherever they're at. And, it just, unfortunately, they're both probably leaving now. So we'll, get more from their stories as they develop. But I wish both those guys well, because they're both terrific young guys and both terrific families. And I will miss talking to the Hardings and the Freemans at games and seeing them there. So that's part of this whole thing is they move on eventually. So that's what's happening here.
Absolutely. A couple more for you before I let you go, Tommy. Over the weekend, there was a outpour of support for Fran McCaffery, especially with former players. I expect that and all those kind of things. Just got done with Frank Garza a little bit ago. Obviously, says a bunch of good things about Fran McCaffery, as you would expect. Was it weird to you? And it wasn't just players, because there was a fan base. There was a portion of the fan base that spoke up all of a sudden. It was just weird that the decision that everybody saw coming happens. And then it was like the people that weren't saying anything started saying a lot. Were you surprised, or I guess your thoughts of the support from Fran over the weekend?
It's always weird when that stuff happens. I don't think a lot of that happened after Todd Licklider got fired. I'd have to go back in my mind 15 years ago, but I don't think that happened. But I think there is an appreciation for what Fran did.
Yep.
I do. I think there's a genuine appreciation for the work he did and the players that he brought in the program and just breathing life back into the program. But I also think most people would tell you that it probably just got stale. It probably just got stale.
No,
so that's just kind of what happened. It was like getting a divorce when you still love them, but you kind of just fallen out of love. You've just it's time to move on.
Are you trying to tell me that Jen's going to divorce me? Is that your way of giving me a heads up?
Yeah, or my Jen. One of the two.
Maybe
both.
They both should. I don't think they're gonna.
Yes.
But they both should. Hey, Tommy, have you filled out a bracket yet? Not filled. Have you filled out a bracket yet?
I barely looked at a bracket.
Okay. So here's what I need you to do is to get in the off the air March Madness pool. Okay. So if I told you that
all ears. The All Ears show?
All ears, all in, off the air, whatever you want to call it. Think about this. If you win, and I just announced it when you were messing up and couldn't hear anything because your computer's bad and your internet stinks, but I don't want to get going on that. Here's nothing to get in. Free as free can get in. And because I have awesome sponsors, the winner's going to get a dozen enchiladas and a large chips and salsa from Snoop, a large specialty or 3-topping pizza from Godfather's, and then a $20 gift card from Hungry Hobo. That's worth the price of admission, which is $0, isn't it?
That is. All you got to do is subscribe to the show.
And most already are, right?
I would hope.
Yeah. So again, I'll get it out on social media, but take advantage of the off the air March Madness pool and get involved with some great sponsors as well. Tommy, I'm sure you've probably had 15 text messages since getting on here. I'm assuming you're ready for a busy day?
Yeah, it's been a busy day and I got things to do. So, what's the name of this show again?
You love this, don't you? So, full disclosure, as we were trying to name this silly little show I was starting, and Tom came up with a good idea, but I think I'd already came up with off the air. So you got me confused. All ears would not have been a bad show. And we have several friends that love the name. They call the show All Ears instead of Off the Air.
Yes.
So,
and that's a bit for me. It's a bit for me.
I don't know if you know the name of the show, the real name.
All In? Oh, wait, that's an AEW pay-per-view.
It's a bad wrestling pay-per-view. See, it's got above the thing. You can see it above it. Off the air.
Off the air. It's off the air. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, all right, Tommy, if people are wondering, the great offer right now for Hawkeye Report.
Hey, $1 for a week, you can get all the scoopage. I've been dropping scoopage all morning.
That sounds really gross.
Yeah. I know it does. But I've been dropping scoopage all morning that's where you found out about the reason news that he was out of the office today. He was, in fact, off the air, maybe.
He was off the grid, if you will. So check out Tom at Hawkeye Report. It's crazy because there's no March Madness, Tom. And so you'd think the Iowa beat writers, the Hawkeye beat would be like, okay, relax. And that's not what it is.
If I were rich like Pat Anger, I'd be down in Florida on vacation right now.
That's the thing, Tom, is it's usually always Anger on Mondays, and we're gonna have to move on without him for 1 week and 1 week only. We'll get him back here eventually. So you're the Pat Anger replacement today. I don't know if that's an upgrade or not, but
should I do poetry?
You should. I've always said you should. And Tom, we didn't even talk about the women, and I won't bug you with it because I know you got things to do. I'm going to catch up with Rob Brooks and probably Kyle Huseman later this week, kind of previewing the women as they get ready down in Norman as well. So, but you guys got plenty of that. Kyle Huseman does a great job with the women's beat.
Yep. Kyle will have a bunch of stuff. We just did a pod last night, me and Kyle talking about the women's stuff. So check out the Hawkeye Report pod, and it's $1, just $1 to sign up for a first week. So on the website with all the scuttlebutt, and I'm doing updates every night, kind of summarizing all the news of the day. So it's exciting times to see what's happening.
I love it. All right, Tom. Well, thank you for getting through the technical difficulty and showing us that. You know what? The smaller screen looks better on you. Less of Tom, the better, I think, for most people.
I think none of me would be the best.
Yes. Well, we're going to do that.
At least that's what sources confirmed, at least.
Yes. So, all right. Get out of here, buddy. We'll talk to you here real soon.
All
right. That is Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report. Dropping some knowledge. So, according to Tommy's sources, and some good sources, Darren DeVries is nowhere to be found in the office today at West Virginia, and supposedly Beth Getz is nowhere to be found in the office today. Where are they at? Are they together? Are they talking about possibly a new coaching job at the University of Iowa? We will wait and see, but that's always great to get up-to-date information from Tom Kakert. And I'll post this later, and if you're watching this later or listening to this later on tonight, it could be completely changed by now. But that is the up-to-date stuff when it comes to the Iowa coaching search as well. One last reminder, we are doing the off-the-air March Madness contest. I'm going to get that out on social media. There's a link to click. Go fill out your brackets. You win. Check out this package. Snoop's Chips and Salsa, a large of both, and an enchilada, a dozen enchiladas, a large specialty pizza or 3-topping pizza from Godfather's, and a $20 Hungry Hobo gift card. That's from our sponsors. We appreciate them for everything they do for the show. We're excited to announce a new sponsor joining real soon later this week, Rafferty Funeral Homes as well. So a lot of exciting times when it comes to March Madness, but also this show, and we're going to put them together with our great sponsors and March Madness and do a March Madness contest, and you can win all of that food and much, much more. So we've got a lot to get to. We are into hour number 2 of the show, and I have promised the one and only Kedric Prince. So we're going to take a short break because we ran a double break a little bit ago. A short 1-minute break, and then we'll be back with the one and only Kedric Prince right after this. When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfathers is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, a Monday here in the Quad Cities and one of my favorite weeks of the year. March Madness is officially in full swing. The brackets are out, and once again, the Fighting Illini are dancing once again. They're not dancing too far away. Up to Milwaukee was where the Illini will go, and we're going to talk all about it with our Illini expert from the Illini guys, our good friend Kedric Prince. Ked, how are you doing, my friend? I appreciate you doing this. Spring break's coming at a good time for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I was trying to sleep in on spring break, but I figured I owed you one, so I woke up just to do this with you, buddy.
I appreciate you doing it, and it's a great week to be on spring break because you just get to sit there on Thursday and Friday and then Saturday and then Sunday and I know you're a junkie for college basketball, so that's what I want to start with because someone like you, and I know you're excited about the Illini and their matchup. We're going to talk about it in a second. We're going to talk about Shauna Green as well, but just this week in general, you're a student of college basketball. If there's a game on, Ked's probably watching it. What is this week like for you?
Well, the first few days is tough because there's nothing, so I'm having to stream and watch things that I probably don't want to watch. But once the tournament starts, Matt, I'm telling you, I will watch every game, as many games as I possibly can. It's great, but it's kind of bittersweet. I was telling a couple of colleagues of mine the other day, the bad thing about it is that once it's over, then you have a whole summer, I guess, recruiting a pickup, which is something that I really love to do as well. But it's great, but it also stinks because you know there's going to be good games on. Then all of a sudden, teams that you followed and teams that you watched, they're no longer playing, and you're not going to see them again until next November. So that part is great. The excitement, the upsets, the fans. I like seeing what people are saying on social media. It's a great time of the year.
It is fantastic. It's really good for the Fighting Illini. They're back in the NCAA tournament. Is it 5-6 straight seasons? Something like that?
5 in a row, and everybody wants to fire him, but it's 5 in a row. Some teams are still not watching, but to each their own.
It's funny because you mentioned that. I was just explaining to my wife and my kids because when I was younger, I loved Selection Sunday. But then when I was in the business and I was working, Selection Sunday was stressful because I had to figure out, okay, they're going to announce where I'm going. You know, I got to travel and go do all that kind of stuff. And yesterday, since I'm not doing what I used to do, was going to be an exciting day. And of course, being growing up as an Iowa fan, it wasn't nearly as fun because that's what's cool is you wait for your team and the name and the announcement. Illinois gets announced. They don't know yet because they're going to play the winner of Xavier and Texas. But when you see Milwaukee, a 6 seed in Milwaukee, you got to smile as an Illini fan knowing that Illini fans do travel. There's a lot in the Chicago area. Milwaukee's not too far away.
Oh, I know. It's funny, these questions, and people are listening to this podcast. Matt did not prep me with any questions or comments, so I'm just telling you. I had a number of friends call me and text me. As soon as they found out where the location was, they were buying tickets. And from the Quad City area, didn't have anything to do with people from Chicago or Peoria, Bloomington, or wherever, or the state of Wisconsin. They're going to travel and they're excited. It's a great opportunity. It's not far from the Quad City area, 2.5, 3 hour drive. So Illinois fans travel. A lot of schools do. I mean, I can't say every school. I know Iowa. I know they're not in the tournament. And I'm not taking a shot at Iowa, but if they were playing in Ames or if they were playing in Milwaukee, they would be fans there too. So it's a great opportunity for Illinois, but they still have to play. You know, it could be in Champaign, and you could still lose. So granted, it's close. It's a good situation for them. I love where they got seated. A lot of people aren't, but I do.
I like it, and I'll tell you why I like it, and then I want to get your thoughts. One, I like location. I'm a big proponent of that being part of it. If you go, I know you're going to travel, but if they're going to San Diego, that's not even a location, but if they're going someplace far away, it's going to be hard. This makes it a lot easier to do. And then I always look at that second round matchup, which I shouldn't because you got to take care of business in round one. But I look at a banged up Kentucky team, and I think if you're going to play a 3 seed and you look at the other 3 seeds there, Kentucky's probably the one that I want to get. I think that's advantageous. Talk about when you look at that bracket, what pops out to Kedric Prince.
What you just said, I mean, you just stole my thunder. I'm sorry. I mean, here's what I tweeted yesterday. People, oh my goodness, Illinois got screwed. Oh, I can't believe they're 60. Oh my, I cannot believe they're going to have to play Kentucky. Who do you want to play? Seton, Jordan Catholic School, Alleman, Rock Island, Washington, high school in Peoria area? You got to play somebody good. It's a tournament, man. What are you expecting? So, I mean, you can complain about it. I mean, yeah, you mentioned Kentucky has two of their best players out. First of all, they do. They need to get past round one because Illinois has been up and down, Jekyll and Hyde. But if there was anybody that I want to play as a 3 seed, it would be them. And I'm going to tell you, if you like offense, and I do, I know defensive coaches probably don't like that, but if you like offense, I'm going to tell you that game potentially could be 109, 110 because both teams get up and down the court. They're not the best defensive teams by the eye test. I don't care about all the analytics. I'm not an analytics guy because I think they're overrated. The eye test still works for me. That game could be one of the best games in the tournament if teams are shooting the basketball because Kentucky can fill it up. And we've seen Illinois. When they're hot, they're as good as anybody in the country. And which Iowa can attest to that, Oregon can attest to that. But when they're ugly, it is one of the most ugliest things that you've seen in college basketball. So to answer your question, I like the seed that they got. They deserve that seed. They lost games they shouldn't have lost. Okay, so Illinois fans, you can get mad about the seed. You don't lose to Northwestern and Northwestern. Don't lose to USC at home on a Saturday morning. Don't put yourself in that position. Then you don't have those losses. You had a chance to beat the number one team in the country, Tennessee, at home, and you blew it. Look in the mirror. You did that to yourself. So the 6th seed isn't bad. The location is great. And for the first time, even me, the seed and that bracket, to me, Illinois got a gift.
People get caught up with numbers. Like you go online right now and 6 versus 11, 5, 12, all that kind of stuff. It's not what it used to be. You and I, when we were growing up way back in the day, it was a big deal. Go to Vegas. Right now, Michigan, who just won the Big Ten tournament, is a 2-point favorite against the 12 seed. That's it. 2 points. So I think people get caught up in that number by your name like it's a respect thing. It's the same thing as rankings during the year. Yeah, fans love them. They can talk about them. They argue about them. But it only matters what happens on the court. And sometimes who cares what the number is? It's the team that you're playing against that's the most important. And I think that's the case with Illinois. It doesn't matter what that number is. It matters the matchup and the draw that they got.
That is probably the thing that I should have led this show with, or this segment with, is matchups to me. Being a college basketball analyst, I'm going to tell you the number one thing is, somebody asked me, is matchups. Everybody's good in the tournament. That's why they're there. I'm not saying they're the best team, they're going to win it, but everyone is good. And it is matchups. You could have a team that likes to get up and run down. Here's an example. If Illinois had an opportunity to play Houston, I hope it gets there, that's going to be a tough matchup for Illinois. Houston's physical. Illinois doesn't do well against physical teams. They don't. See Maryland twice this year. Okay. I just know when you play in a team like Iowa with Illinois, that's why I mentioned Kentucky, you get your track shoes on because it's going to be a track meet. So you look at, I think with Michigan, you mentioned them, and I don't know if you wanted me to make a comment about them. I don't think the committee, I don't think they think Michigan's that good. They struggled down the stretch. Even though they won the Big Ten tournament, I think winning the Big Ten tournament, and they finished, 3rd or 4th in the Big Ten, and they got a 5 seed. I think that was very disrespectful to them, number one. But, again, even with them, it's matchups. It's how teams can take advantage of it. That's the thing that Illinois did well last year. They had Terrence Shannon, Marcus Domas, and Coleman Hawkins, and they literally went to every roster, because Coach Underwood mentioned this to me. They would find a weakness on that roster, and they would abuse that person. That's what they did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ken, you look at the you mentioned numbers. I remember clear as day, Iowa was a 2 seed going to Buffalo. And no, I'm sorry. They were a 2 seed in the Indianapolis when everything was in Indy a few years ago. And they got they won their first round game, and then they had Oregon sitting there as a 7 seed. And I'm sitting there looking at the bracket that year going, the hell that Oregon's a 7 seed. It's about matchups. It doesn't matter the 2 and the 7. I just had an 8-year-old fill out his bracket, and he figured out 1 is good, 16 is bad, and he's as chalk can be, because that's what you would think. But chalk doesn't happen, and those are the kind of things that people got to remember. Forget the numbers. It's all about matchups, and I love them for Illinois. Who does Illinois want in round 1? If Kedric Prince got to be the king of the world, which he thinks he is probably sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. Would you want Xavier? Do you want Texas? Talk about who would you rather have on Friday?
Gosh, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I don't lie to people. I want to have Texas because I don't think they're well coached, and I think that's an advantage to Illinois. And both of those teams, you know what? You talk about people complaining. Xavier, Texas, neither one of those teams, people didn't think they were even getting in the tournament. So that's another advantage to tell you that. But you got to show up. I would much rather play Texas because I think from a coaching standpoint, I just don't think they're well coached. And truthfully, there was rumors that they were going to look into a different direction. So if I had my pick, I would love to play Texas. I hope Illinois wins. I may be making myself look stupid. I want to play Kentucky. There's some bad history with Illinois and Kentucky just with recruiting alone. So I'm looking forward to that if that potentially happens. And I think it's a good matchup. Again, for the first time in probably 4 or 5 years, even though when they were the number 1 seed, I think Illinois' situation in their bracket, I think it sets up nice for them. And Matt, you're right. It doesn't matter if you're 1 or 2 or 7, because if you were in the Maui Classic and you were playing like 2 and a 7, it wouldn't matter because they're upsets and they're going to happen.
No, absolutely. Kedric Prince joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Ked, when you look at this Illinois basketball team, actually, real quick, I want to ask you about, is there an advantage in your mind? Because there's sometimes those teams play in the Final Four, or the first 4, and they get rolling. They get their feet underneath them. They get in a groove, and sometimes they win. But there's also the advantage of not having to be in Dayton, travel, all that kind of stuff. Do you put any stock into playing a team that's already played in the NCAA tournament before they get to that first round game with Illinois? Second round game, I guess.
Do you mean the playing game? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the playing game. Do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage for whoever's coming out? I think it was Tennessee a few years ago, probably more than a few years ago. They went to Dayton. They won. They won next 2. They were in the Sweet 16. Would you rather have that rest and have them come in, or would you rather get a game underneath your belt, get a victory, maybe be playing better basketball as you get ready to play?
You know what? That is a great question, and I really mean that. Every team is different. And I'm going to tell you, last year, if you would have asked me that, I would have said it didn't matter. This Illinois team, it matters. This team plays better when they're well rested. Look at how well they played against Iowa. And then the very next day, they shot lights out against Iowa. The very next day, they couldn't put it in the basket. That's why every team is different to me. So this group, I would like to rest. This team moves better. They move the ball better. They defend better. They shoot better when they have rest. That's why I'm concerned. I was always concerned about the next day. Maryland was a bad matchup to begin with, but I knew Illinois wasn't going to shoot like that. So with this group, yes, rest matters. Some of the other Brad Underwood teams or anybody else, yeah. But for the most part, everybody's doing the same thing. Well, not playing in a playing game, but everybody's legs were tired. People complained about the championship game with Wisconsin and Michigan. Legs were tired. I mean, because Wisconsin's a good 3-point shooting team, and their legs are gone. There's something to say for that. A lot of coaches think don't use it as an excuse. It matters. I'm sorry, it really does.
Ken, have you filled out your bracket yet? Are you one of those people that grab it, fill it out, and that's your bracket? Or do you let things simmer, let them marinate a little bit, kind of think before you do it?
I'm not an arrogant person. For people who know me, I'm a down-to-earth person. I don't think life's bigger than me and who I am. But I'm going to tell you, I have 19 brackets to fill out. I get it from everybody under the sun because they want me to do it. I haven't filled out one. Sometimes I let my kids pick it. My Keelan and Kennedy fill them out. I just get beat to death with brackets, so I've not filled one out yet. The team that I think the best team in college basketball to me, I think is Auburn. And I know Illinois fans, I know. Please don't kill me. I mean, I want to live another 20, 30 years. But I think that team's the most impressive team in college basketball. But, no, I've not filled it out yet. I'm going to be really smart this year. I'm not thinking with my heart. I'm using my head out of the 19 bracket requests that I have. But, no, I've not done it yet.
Okay, with that being said, I honestly look at Illinois, and if somebody says to me, I got them going to the Elite Eight, I can say, okay. Somebody says to me, I got Illinois losing in round 1. I can go, okay. Is that fair? Is that fair? Because I think their floor can be really. They've been so heckle and jive up and down. Where are you with your confidence of this Illinois basketball team right now?
With my heart, they're going to win the first round game. The second round game, they play Kentucky. I wouldn't bet my house on it. With my head, knowing what I've seen this year, they could lose the first round game, man. It is possible. I mean, I just told you, I was one of the games I was lucky enough to cover due to health reasons was I was at USC. And at press go, you have to behave, you have to be good, you can't cheer. But I wanted to throw my Chromebook all over the court. I wanted to throw my pen. I could not believe what I watched. And you're at home. So I've seen when they're playing really bad. I mean, let's look at Maryland. Look at the Duke game. I don't forget that stuff. I just don't, and that's why it's very possible. It's not just going to be Illinois. It's going to be upsets, but honestly, they could lose to them. Because if they're not shooting the ball well, or if Tomislav Ivica gets in foul trouble, they're in trouble, man. I mean, I'm not going to sit here. I just said to you, when I put my bracket out, I'm not using my heart because that'll get you in trouble.
Kedric Prince joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo on a Monday. Well, I'm going to make it 20 brackets because we're doing a fun bracket here at let Keelan do it, let Kennedy do it, but anytime you can play a bracket for free and get Snoops, chips and salsa, enchiladas, Godfathers, and Hungry Hobo, there's no reason you don't need to at least give it a shot. So I'm gonna make you fill out one more. When you come to,
Matt, can I make a comment about that real quick?
Yeah.
This is a plug to your sponsors.
Yeah.
So Keelan sent me this picture yesterday, and it had 4 restaurants on it. And I'm not going to mention all the other restaurants. Hungry Hobo was one of those restaurants. You had to eliminate one. We've all seen that. Keelan was dead set. Hungry Hobo is his spots. Now, the other thing is I never had Snoops until I golfed in your golf tournament. Ooh. And I'm going to tell you, if you've ever had it, I tried to buy it myself, but you had to buy it in bulk. That's how good it is. And I'm telling you people out there. And the other one is Godfather's. That is my favorite cheap bacon cheeseburger ppizza in the world. And I know these are your sponsors and they're hooking you up, but I'm telling you, man, this is a fluke that you're asking me. So all these sponsors, I'm telling you, I'm your Iowa people, and I love you to death, but I'm going to tell you, those restaurants are legit.
Yeah, and it's funny because remember we used to do for Tommy's podcast, we went to Godfather's. And we had the bacon cheeseburger or whatever it was, and Ked's face was smiling double that right now. Look at your smile.
Because it's different. And even like I found out they opened one out in Mount Joy, Downport area. That bacon cheeseburger hits different. To be honest with you, the owner's he's an Iowa fan, but I tell you what, man, he's hooked me up multiple times. That bacon cheeseburger's in a different class by itself.
Yes. Head out to he's got a great location out in Silvis, relatively new, and it's a great spot. And they got the window, you can pick up the pizza and get out of there and all that kind of stuff. And so fill that one out. Let's talk about the men's NCAA tournament before we talk about Shauna Green and the Fighting Illini, because I don't understand North Carolina. I don't quite get it. And I know people right away, and there's no love lost with Indiana, so I don't think Illinois fans are like, oh, poor Indiana. It's poor West Virginia and some of the other teams that deserve to be in. Can you explain North Carolina? And it's a really bad look when the North Carolina athletic director is the guy that comes on CBS with his shirt and tie on and starts talking about why North Carolina got into the NCAA tournament, isn't it?
Matt, I'm going to say this really slow because I talk really fast, but I'm going to tell you that when I was young, I didn't believe in politics. I couldn't even spell politics. I didn't think they existed. And it's a tough climate that we live in our country right now. But that was the most political BS I have seen in a long time. 1-12 and a quad one win. You can't justify that. When he came on, I turned the channel. I didn't want to hear it because they're lying. There's no way in the world you can tell me a team like in Indiana, they got in because of the committee and because of the name. But Indiana has a name as well. They deserve to be in there, not because it's a Big Ten school or even West Virginia. That stuff has to stop, because you know what? You're not only affecting the schools, you're affecting these kids. You just gave a gift to North Carolina, and they didn't deserve to be there. If there was 2 gifts, you didn't ask me, but I'm giving you my opinion, in the whole NCAA tournament, that was one, and Purdue getting a 4 seed. That was a travesty as well to me. They struggled down the stretch. They weren't better than Illinois. They're not better than Michigan. I'm sorry, they didn't deserve that. But I don't think that's right. There's always going to be teams left out. But this time, people can complain about how teams got left in. And I'm going to tell you, nationally, all the analysts are being critical. Nobody thought that should have happened. And then they can justify it. It's not 1985 anymore, where the rule used to be if you get 20 wins. I don't care if they have 20 wins. They shouldn't be in the tournament.
No, I completely agree. When you look at the Iowa situation, before we talk about Illinois, had Frank Garza on earlier in the show. Great things to say about Fran McCaffery and a great insight on Iowa moving on. So I want your first thoughts of when you hear Fran being fired. I don't think it surprised you. I don't think it surprised a lot of people. Your thoughts of Fran McCaffery and the legacy he left at Iowa. What will you remember him about?
Well, great last segment. I remember meeting Fran myself personally in Davenport, Iowa, at a tournament here locally in Davenport, and Tom introduced me to him. I shook his hand, and I walked away, but he knew who I was because of social media. He grabbed my hand and said, "Sit down and let's talk." And we talked about basketball. Dude doesn't know me from Adam, and he starts talking about my kids. People know that's where my heart is at. And we just talked like a person. So when Illinois fans get mad at me when I say this, I don't care. And I will challenge anybody, Matt. Fran is a good dude, not just because he shook my hand and had a conversation. Do you ever see him belittle his players? I don't. I'm jealous of Fran. Fran gets to say things to officials that Kedrick would love to be able to say, but I can't. That's why I'm a fan, because I love when he gets down there and lets them know what he thinks. And so to me, I was mad, not because I shook his hand, not because I'm jealous of him because he can rip officials. Fran is a good basketball coach. And Iowa fans, get mad at Kedrick. You can turn this segment off. Fran struggled because of NIL dollars. The game has changed, and that's not Fran's fault. Iowa can say whatever they want, because I know they put their money into the football program and women's basketball program, and that's fine. Because I'm going to tell you, you can hire Mike Krzyzewski as your next hire. If you don't get up with the times and change with the game, they're not going to win either. Because if you don't have NIL money, you're not winning, guys. I'm sorry. I've said it. I've wrote about it. Illinois is competitive in football, one, because of Brett Bielema, number one. But there's NIL money, so Illinois is on even playing field, but not with other schools. And if Iowa doesn't do that, Matt, they're going to struggle. I'm mad they fired Fran, because Fran is a good X's and O's coach. He's very, very respectful. I mean, his kids could go out there and turn the ball over and miss 17 shots in a row. In the back of his mind, he probably wants to kick a field goal in Kinnick Stadium, but he doesn't do that to his kids. That's why I respect him. I'm not going to lie. This coach is up there. I didn't like Tom Davis, and I wasn't a fan of George Raveling and blah, blah, blah. I'm not even a Steve Alford fan. I liked Fran McCaffery because he's a good dude, and I'm telling you, as a parent, I would want my kids to play for a guy who doesn't go out there to belittle. And I'm an old school guy. I liked him, and I'm telling you, I'm disappointed that he's gone. Not because of his Franometer and all this stuff. That stuff's good for the Illinois fans. Dude's a good person. He's a good coach. And I get it. Financially, it didn't make sense. I did a podcast with you and Tom. Tom told us they did a game and only 2,600 people scanned tickets. You can't do that at Iowa. Kevin Skill is one of my best friends. He told me when we talked about it last week, Kedrick, it didn't matter if it was 8 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning. Carver Hawkeye Arena was always sold out. That's the bottom line. It's not because Fran's not a coach. He's not winning, and nobody's going to games anymore.
It's such a big business now, Ked. You're exactly right. It is such a big business. The Fighting Illini women, Ked, I'm going to be honest with you. I covered this area for 25 years. I don't think I did squadoosh with Illinois women's basketball until Shauna Green came along. And obviously the Clinton tie, our area, so that got our attention. But, hey, she's taken the Fighting Illini to the NCAA tournament 2 out of 3 years now. And we've talked about the injuries and all the things that they had, and she still did what she needed to do and got that team to the NCAA tournament. Before we talk about the matchup, just your thoughts on Shauna. I know you're a big fan. I'm a huge fan. That program is heading in the right direction, and she's doing a fantastic job.
You're right. A lot of it has to do with the area, but if it didn't, and it just being just turn the program around, it's different. It is just she's breathed a lot of life into that program. I'm going to say it. It was one of the worst basketball programs in the country. When people played Illinois women's basketball before Shauna got there in previous years, it was a free game. Lisa Bluter said it. I mean, you can go back and you can Google this quote. She basically told her team, this isn't the same team where we walked in here, we knew we were going to get a win. She even said it. She knew it. But it's not like that anymore. There's a new sheriff in town, and that lady's wearing that state hat. She's done a remarkable job. Not only do they're tough, they win and they beat good people. She is excellent. I watch Shauna Green games because one, I'm a basketball loser and I love watching games, but her X's and O's are unbelievable. The things that she draws up, she puts every player on that court. I just watch her, like if it's Adelia, McKenzie, or Kendall Bostic, she puts them in positions where they can score, where they're good at all the time. Like Adelia is really quick and athletic on the wings. She has a play where she creates off of a down screen where Delia gets to take her defender one-on-one. She runs a baseline action, a two-man game for Kendall Bostic where she's able to take a big out to shoot a perimeter shot. She's just good at what she does, Matt. And her recruiting, which if you follow my Twitter or in my other social media accounts, for a program that was one of the worst programs in college basketball, I'm telling you, the worst in college basketball, she comes up with the 7th best recruiting class in the country in year 3, and she has 3 top 100 kids. Her recruiting class is better than Iowa's, and Iowa's just coming off 2 national championship and Final Four games. That tells you what kind of coach she is.
Okay, so they get an 8 seed. They play Creighton on Saturday. Your thoughts when that bracket comes out? I just feel like they've been undervalued all year. I thought that she should have been and I'm biased a little bit, Big Ten Coach of the Year. I think if she would have finished a little bit higher up, probably, so I understand it maybe with the other coaches. But also from that conference in the Big Ten and the way she finished, I thought maybe 8 was a little low. I kind of expected 7, 8. They get an 8. What were your thoughts when you see them come out and then a first-round matchup on Saturday evening, I think, 6:15 against Creighton? Your thoughts on the draw that they got?
I was mad at this one, and I'm going to tell you why I was mad at this one. They, at one time, they were 3rd or 4th at the end of the season, and I know there's analytics and things, but I don't think anymore, Matt, they take into consideration, even with the Illinois men, the injuries. 2 of Illinois men starters missed 6 games. Shauna Green is playing with 6 girls. I just found out yesterday that one of the girls who she rarely used is injured and can't play in the tournament again. Here's why I think it stinks. If Shauna Green had a healthy roster, and I want people to know, there's a 6'7" girl on that bench down there. Her name is Lady Vescalonis. If you go back and watch, I think she's taller than 6'7". If you go back and watch the victory celebration, now my son is legitimate 6'6". I think that girl's 6'9". She didn't play this year, Matt. She's sitting on the bench. Gretchen Dolan was one of New York's top scorers in the state of the history of the school. She didn't play. Yeah. So I think the selection committee should have taken some of that stuff in consideration. And Shea Bowen, a transfer from Duke, that matters because I wanted them to get a 7 seed just because of the injuries. The 8, I knew I was expecting an 8 just for that reason. But I think not having some of those players. Oh, and Makira Cook, she was an all Big Ten guard who led the team in scoring. So all those things I just mentioned, Shauna won 20 games this year, and she's in the tournament. The seed that they got against Creighton, I think it's a good matchup. Illinois is going to run out of gas at some point. I mean, just because of injuries, and I know it. The second-round game, if they win against Texas, oh, my gosh, I'm just dreading that because of just the lack of depth. But I will say this. When they went out on that West Coast, they gave UCLA and USC a game. Shauna's not going to run away, and she's not going to use excuses. I mean, I'm expecting a good game. I know they're going to be well coached. I mean, I don't expect a blowout. I don't expect a 30, 40-point loss. That's not going to happen with her.
I completely agree, and that's going to be fun to watch because I think she's she's in that same book for me that Fran you just mentioned is. There's times with Fran, I'll watch an inbounds play, and I'll go, what was that? It results in a dunk. And I'm a dork for inbound plays. I'm just I love them, and I'll go back and watch it. She's the same way. Some of the stuff she runs, you're like, what did she just run? And I love her X's and O's and all those kind of things. So I completely agree with you. All right, Ked, we know you're on spring break. I'm going to let you go. But what does March Madness look like for you? Like, do you have a good setup? What's the setup look like? I know you're battling a few health things here and there, so you can't go pigging out crazy. But what's the setup look like for March Madness for Kedric Prince?
Well, I'm going to do this to toot my horn. For all the people out there that have asked me to come hang out with them, to go to bars, I don't drink, but to go hang out with them, I can't do it all. And I would love to come hang out with you. I don't know what I'm going to do. I may just do what I did when I was in college, go to my mom's house and sit in the basement, except for I'm not going to throw a remote because she kicked me out one time because I threw a remote and broke it. I may just do that. I'm not for sure. I don't know, but whatever I am, I'm going to have 2 tablets. I'm going to have a TV, multiple screens up. But I'm just not for sure. But I'm just glad that it's here, number one. And it is a good time. I'm not going to pig out like I used to because that didn't get me where I needed to be. So having said that, I'm just really looking forward to the games. I just don't know what I'm going to do. So I apologize because I can't be everywhere, and I would love to see people, and I would love to be up in Milwaukee, but after next week, my travel restrictions will be lifted, and I'm going to be all over the country again. So
I love it.
So that's
I
what
love
I'm thinking
it.
about.
Well, I'm going to throw this out to you, and I'm going to send you a picture, and I'm being serious. But even not if I were you, and I remember when I was younger and I'd watch Iowa games, I don't do it around people. Like I'm a huge Lions fan, and if they would, my wife asked if the Lions go to the Super Bowl this year, you gonna have people over? I said, are you kidding me? The things that come out of my mouth during a Lions game,
Man,
you can't have people around.
You can't. I wish. See, and that's the thing. You said it, so now I want to admit it. It is ugly watching a game with me when I'm at press rock because I can't say anything. I have a video of my daughter, and she's the sweetest little girl ever.
True.
I didn't cover a game once. I stayed at home, and I have a video. We're watching TV. I was recording her, and she didn't know it, and she was watching a game. And the stuff that I've sent it to some people. We are very, very competitive people in my house and my family. So I don't want to watch games with people because I don't want them to see that side of me. I just don't, because they think, oh my gosh, this dude really bipolar when it comes to sports. So it's nice to do it. You bite your tongue, but when I'm by myself, I get to be Kedrick, and I sometimes I think that's healthy, and I don't blame you because when Illinois when they went to the Final Eight last year, and with Iowa State, I was nervous because I work in Iowa, live in Illinois, and I work with a bunch of Iowa State fans. Can you imagine sitting at home with me when they lost to Duke by 43, when they lost to UConn and went on a 30-0 run? Mad people will never talk to me again.
I don't text you. There's certain times that I'm
Thank you.
I'm not going to even, and I wouldn't even text. I don't text you to make fun of, but if I had hey, what do you think of something? I'm going to wait. It's like a 24-hour rule in sports with your kids. 24-hour rule, can't simmer, and then we'll go. But here's what I want you to do or think about. I'm going to send you a picture when we're done. My wife, God bless her, let me put I have a 70-inch TV, and then I have 43-inch TVs around them. I have 5 TVs on the big wall.
You spoiled brat.
I am. And it was her idea. God bless her. So Friday, I don't want you in my house. I have too many nice things. I don't want you breaking any of my TVs for an Illinois game. But on Thursday, if you're got nothing to do, starting at 11 o'clock, I'm going to end my show a little bit early, and I'm going to go downstairs, and I'm going to just watch, have all 5 TVs going at the same time, have every game I need going. So I'll send you a picture. Totally get it if you don't want to, if you can't, but mi casa es su casa. So if you want to come on out, come on out. It's not that long of a drive. Everyone thinks this is like in Timbuktu. It's not that far away. I bet you from your house, it's like 15, 20 minutes. So I'm going to send you that. But Ken, I appreciate you doing this. I know you're super busy. I get on social media last night, and every other thing I see is Ked's live here, Ked's live here, Ked's live here. So you're killing it. Keep doing the good stuff, and tell people how they can get your content, because I think the best way is to go to X, because everything you do, you have on X and all that kind of stuff. But give people the rundown of how they can be part of the Kedric Prince universe, if you will.
Well, I do most of my stuff, like you said, I call it Twitter still, but most of the stuff there, my kids convinced me to get a Facebook 3 years ago, and I did it so I could follow my high school and college friends, but now it's kind of become a social media thing. I've got to be careful because I don't want to bore people. I put a few things on Facebook, but most of my stuff is on Twitter, and if people are interested in it. But for the most part, I'm not a guy who's looking for followers or anything like that. I'm not 20 years old anymore. I just like giving information. People know I'm going to tell the truth. Sometimes they don't like it, but I'm an honest guy. So, but if you're interested in, and not just Illinois stuff, like I put stuff on my Facebook page, defending Fran. If you think I'm lying, go look at it, even on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So there's no hateful blood there for me, man. I just call it the way I see it, Matthew.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate you as always, and we'll catch up real soon. How about I'll give you one of these. ILL.
INI.
Huh? Like, there you go.
I never get to say that. I never get to say that because a media guy can never say it.
I get it. I will. That's your St. Patrick's Day present from me to you, is an ILLINI. Ken, I'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. That is Kedric Prince. Everything you need to know about the Fighting Illini. I'm going to get in trouble for that. My kids were downstairs on spring break, and they're going to be like, Dad, did you just ILL? So it's okay. March Madness is in full swing. Check out all of Ked's stuff. And as we mentioned, he did a great job plugging my sponsors, but a really cool NCAA tournament that we're doing where you can get hooked up with some great stuff from some of our sponsors right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Well, we are just getting rocking and rolling. We got even more to get to right after the break on Off the Air on a Monday. Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air in the Quad Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here in the Quad Cities. It is a Monday, a March Madness Monday, a lot to get to. It's been a fun show so far. Also St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day to all you Irishmen out there. I am half Irish as well, so happy St. Patrick's Day to, most importantly, my mother is all 100% Irish, and she loves St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day to her. It's also St. Joseph's Day on the 19th, which is the national, it's almost like the Italian National Day, if that makes any sense. I used to always give my mom a hard time growing up because my dad was all Italian, so I celebrated more for St. Joseph's Day to be a brat. But anyways, it's been a crazy morning. It's been a crazy week and weekend. March Madness is in full swing. A lot to get to kind of wrap up, but some breaking news as we started the show. Brock Harding is officially in the transfer portal, the former Moline State champion, finishing up his sophomore season at the University of Iowa. I thought a really good sophomore season, especially at the end of the season. Went through some stuff, obviously. Started most of the games. When Owen got injured, they kind of retweaked the lineup. Brock came off the bench, a different look. A lot of guys are going to sulk and pout, and he didn't. Some of his best games of the season were at the end of the year, including that dagger against Ohio State at the Big Ten tournament on Wednesday. So we wish Brock the best of luck. We'll see where he lands. I know he's got plenty of opportunities out there. Did not rule out going back to the University of Iowa. But I'm going to tell you this. During the breaks, I've jumped onto social media, and Brock put out a nice tweet, nice post, whatever you call it now on X. And the responses to it by some of you idiots make me so mad. Like, honestly, who sits, reads the social media, and they're like 50, 60, whatever you're adults, and goes, I'm going to jump on there and get after this 19, 20-year-old kid and say stupid stuff. So 75, 80% of the response is very nice. To you idiots that jump on and try to bash or, make fun of or throw shade at a super good dude, hardworking young man, grow up. Like, if that's what gets you through your day, is to jump on social media to a college athlete when he just announced that he's heading to this transfer portal after his coach got fired, and throw shade and do stupid stuff like that, just grow up. I hate keyboard warriors, because you look at you go to the profile and you look, and it's not even the person, some stupid ass pictures up there. You don't even know who it is. It's all anonymous, and it's like, just grow up. So there's my little rant for the for Monday as well. So we wish Brock the best of luck. We'll see where he ends up. Obviously, also this weekend, Owen Freeman in the transfer portal as well. So we'll see where Owen Freeman ends up. Doesn't look like he'll be heading back to the University of Iowa, Owen for sure. And we'll see what happens with Brock Harding as well. So that was kind of the breaking news. Also, a lot of NCAA tournament talk. We talked with Kedric Prince about the Illini. I think they got a good draw. I love the fact that they're close. They're up in Milwaukee. Makes it easy for Illinois fans to get to. They do travel well. And that second round matchup's not crazy. Against Kentucky. Kentucky beat up a little bit. So I think they got a good draw on paper. Which Illinois team shows up is the question mark. If they show up, make threes, they're going to win a lot of basketball games. If they struggle the way they have in certain times this year, they could be one and done. So Kedric Prince doing a great job breaking that all down for us for the Illini. Also, Luka Garza's dad, Frank Garza, joined us in hour number 1 as well to talk about Fran McCaffery's legacy at the University of Iowa. So great stories about Fran McCaffery. His favorite story about Fran McCaffery was awesome as well. So go check that out if you missed it as well. So we have a lot of March Madness throughout the entire week to get to. Make sure you stay locked right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. I will tell you right now, the Thursday and Friday shows will be getting done around 11:15. So that I can go watch basketball. So they'll be a little shortened on Thursday and Friday, but we still will have a ton to get to on those shows. I do want to let you guys know, we've talked about it throughout the show, but coming up after the show, I'll put the link out on social media, but we are doing our Off the Air with Matt Randazzo March Madness bracket. Jump on in there. It's free to get into. Fill out your bracket. If you win, you get a large chips and salsa from Snoop. You get a dozen enchiladas from Snoop. You also get a Godfather's large specialty or 3-topping pizza, up to 3 toppings, and a $20 Hungry Hobo gift card. We have fantastic sponsors here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. So really fun package to win. So get online. When we post that here in a little bit, I'll also talk about it throughout the rest of the week as well. But get online, fill out your bracket, and win some great products from some great sponsors right here on the show. Also excited, later this week, we're officially going to welcome a brand new sponsor to the show, Rafferty Funeral Home. So excited about that as well. Also, tomorrow, with all this March Madness going on, it's also almost Steam Wheeler season. And joining me here in studio, coming all the way out to the house, is Steam Wheeler's owner, Doug Bland. He's going to be on the show tomorrow as well. So excited to welcome Doug tomorrow. We got to catch up with the Iowa women and do some Iowa State as well. Those are the two things we didn't talk a ton about on today's show. Hopefully can track down Kyle Huseman or Rob Brooks to talk about the Iowa women. And then also trying to track down Jake Brenn to get his thoughts on the Cyclones, which I thought got a good draw as well on paper. But then the news came out yesterday that Keyshawn Gilbert will not be playing in the NCAA tournament. That's a tough loss for Iowa State. Still think it's a super talented team. Still think they can make some noise, possibly get to a Sweet 16, Elite 8. I thought at one point this year they were a Final Four team. I don't know if they are a Final Four team without Gilbert, so we will wait and see on that. A lot to talk about with that as well. If you're watching live on YouTube, live on Twitter, we thank you guys so much for doing that. Please go subscribe on the YouTube channel. That helps me out a ton if you do. Like, rate, comment, all of those things that help us out. We appreciate it if you did that as well. And if you're listening to this on podcast form, we appreciate that as well. So we got a lot to get to this week. Coming up later this week as well, we'll be joined by the new head coach at Central Michigan, Matt Drinkle, Bettendorf standout, really good dude. We're going to catch up with him. I'm looking at Wednesday. We'll have that interview for you Wednesday or Thursday before the NCAA tournament starts as well. So boy, when you look at the Steam Wheelers, you look at Doug Bland, you look at Matt Drinkle, you look at March Madness. Breaking news today, kind of great insight from Tom Kakert. Tom Kakert is on here talking about, according to some of his sources, Darren DeVries is nowhere to be found at West Virginia today at the office. And Beth Getz is not in her office either. So I love coaching searches because that's the kind of stuff you get. You get like I saw Darren DeVries in Iowa City looking for a washer and dryer at whatever. So that's a lot of fun, but Tommy knows his stuff, and that's kind of what's going on. I would expect something to happen with the Iowa basketball job sooner than later if it's going to be Darren DeVries. If it's not, then you're going to have to wait and see. And some of the coaches that also would be interested in the job to get through the NCAA tournament, Ben McCullum, somebody like that as well. So we will wait and see, but we will be on coaching watch in Iowa City and March Madness watch for the Fighting Illini, Iowa State, the Iowa State women, Illinois women, Iowa women, all of that good stuff. So a lot to get to. It should be a fun week right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Thank you guys for joining us for a jam-packed full show today. We'll be back here tomorrow morning on Off the Air with another full show and get you caught up on everything you need to know. We'll see you guys tomorrow.